Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over each of these bullets in a little bit more detail. We've shot the groups. If you haven't seen our last videos, I'd recommend watching those. But we'll go through and we're going to talk about each of these bullets and kind of their strengths, their weaknesses, and we'll see where they rank. This is not a fully comprehensive comparison between all bullets. This is just what we had for our testing currently. If you'd like to see any other bullets or anything get compared with the current inventory we have, just leave us a comment down below and we'll see what we can find. For these rankings, it is going to be on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, depending on the category. The 5-point categories are going to be long-range capability, so that is going to be based off of BC and kind of the experience that we have out at range, as well as price. Now, there's no such thing as a cheap bullet. Some are just more inexpensive than others. And for the 10-point scale, we are going to have that be for accuracy, and that is going to be rated at 100 yards. And then consistency, so that it can be long-range consistency or just consistency in general between groups. We also have hunting, so that is going to be reliability of expansion. Now, that's not necessarily that, oh, the bullet's just going to mushroom or that it's going to come apart. It's just the reliability that we can know 9 times out of 10 what is that bullet going to do. And then availability. It does us no good to have a bullet shoot really well if we can't ever find it. So for that, we are going to have, again, the categories: accuracy, consistency, long-range capability, hunting, price, and availability. All those points will be added together, and at the end we'll get a final score. The first bullet is the Hornady 100 grain ELD VT bullet. We did some initial testing at 100 yards, and the groups were fairly consistent, you could say. They ranged between 3/4 MOA to about 1.5 inches. So for that reason, they got a 7 and a 6 for accuracy and consistency. Now, it could get better, it could get worse. For that reason, we didn't really give it a green score, but it's not in the red either. However, long range capability. It is a super light bullet with a not great BC. It hasn't been tested a whole lot by us out at range, but for that reason we gave it a 2. Now, hunting, it does what it is supposed to very well. It hits and it comes apart. It's a varmint bullet. It does that job very well, so it's an 8 out of 10. Price is a 3 because it's not necessarily the cheapest bullet ever, but it's made by Hornady, so it's an affordable price. And then availability, I looked for this bullet for a long time, and for that I gave it a 4 out of 10. It is making a comeback, and it is on the shelves a little more prevalently, but it's not super available. So as we add all that up, it gets a total score of 30 points. The second bullet that we have is the 120 grain Nosler ballistic tip. Now, this bullet has by far been the most consistent and the most accurate that we have had at 100 yards. Even out to 400-500, it is super consistent. So in those two categories, accuracy, it gets a 10 out of 10. And consistency, we gave it an 8 out of 10. It could be a little better between shooters, but overall it is a very consistent group. Long range capability, the BC is a little bit better than the 100 grain ELD VT, but not by a whole lot. So for that reason, it's a 2.5. It's consistent out at range, and it does well. It's just that low BC again. It works against it. Now, hunting is a 9 out of 10. We've used this bullet a ton, and every time it performs how it is supposed to. Now, it's not a 10 out of 10 because there is room for failure, but overall, it's going to function how it is designed to. Price, it is the most expensive bullet here out of these 6. So for that, it has to be a 2. Availability is a 7. You might not always be able to find the 120 grain, but you can always find either the 120 or 140 grain bullets. So availability, it's there. It just might not be exactly what you're looking for. And for all that added up together, we're at 38.5 points. Then there's the 140 grain Hornady boat tail hollow point bullet. This bullet is an awesome little bullet. It groups well, right around 3/4 MOA, sometimes smaller, sometimes we're a touch over MOA. So it gets an 8 out of 10 on accuracy and a 7 out of 10 on consistency. On long range capability, it's kind of that mid range of the BC. It does well at range, but it leaves a little bit lacking, so it's a 3 out of 5. Hunting, it's a match bullet. And not only that, it's an open point, hollow point bullet. It could expand, it could not. It's not going to be super consistent, so it's a 5 out of 10. Price is a 4 out of 10. It is super cheap, super available. It is an awesome thing if you can get it to shoot. So for that reason, price is a 4, availability is an 8. Hornady does a great job at having availability for most of their bullets. This one's not an exception there. So total that we have is 35 points. Where to begin on the next one? The 140 grain Hornady ELDM. Well, the ELDM can produce some amazing accuracy. However, it is super hard to find accuracy if you don't have a super expensive barrel. So for that reason, in my experience, it's a 6 out of 10. It's not great. It's got potential, but again, it doesn't produce the groups that it should. Same thing with consistency. As you get further out in range, we've seen jumps of 3 to 4 feet in groups. So at 1,000 yards, it's not what it's advertised to be as a match bullet. Now that could just be the gun, could just be the barrel. We need to do more testing on it, but overall it's an inconsistent bullet. Long range capabilities though, it has that BC, it has that potential. You just have to find the bullet or the gun that will work with it. So we gave it a 4 out of 5 because, you know, it's capable. It really depends on your gun. Hunting, it's a 5 out of 10. It's another match bullet. It could expand, it could pencil through. It's really inconsistent on how it expands on game. But because it is another Hornady bullet, it's super affordable, so it gets a 4 out of 5, and the availability is there. I don't think I've ever really been into a store that didn't have an ELDM or the weight I was looking for. But again, the thing that really kills this bullet is the accuracy and the consistency of groups. Those two categories really brought it down, and it brought it down clear to 30 points. It's not great. The ELDX is the bullet that, you know, I really didn't want to like it. It shoots really well. We got some of the best groups we have out of that ELDX, and the groups are super consistent. We can get sub MOA on pretty much any day you take it out. So accuracy is a 10 out of 10 and consistency is an 8 out of 10. The long range capabilities for this bullet is also really good. It has a super high BC, and in many cases it's in the mid weight to the upper weights of the caliber, so it's really going to fight that wind well. This is where the ELDX begins to struggle though, is in hunting. It is a designed hunting bullet. However, it is super inconsistent on how it expands. Some guys tell stories of how it hits the shoulder on the elk or the deer and it blows up. In my experience, it holds together very well and just kind of pencils through. So realistically here, it is a good hunting bullet. You can hunt with it, but you're not always sure what you're going to get for expansion and performance. So for that reason, on hunting, it is a 4 out of 10. Price is going to be a 4 out of 5 because it's everywhere. It is awesome. You can find it pretty much everywhere you go. I think I've only been to one or two stores and haven't found an ELDX. So it gets an 8 out of 10 on availability, giving it a score of 38. And finally, the last bullet that we tested in this little series was the 144 grain Berger long range hybrid target. It can produce some good accuracy. You can get sub MOA groups down to half MOA pretty easily. However, the consistency between groups sometimes isn't there. We've gotten half MOA groups and then 20 minutes later shot another group that was 2.5 inches. So for that reason, accuracy is a 7 out of 10. It can be a very accurate bullet. But the consistency in our experience, it's not quite there. It could be a powder issue, it could just be the bullet. So for that reason, for now, it's a 5 out of 10. The long range capability on this bullet is the best out of all of these. Now, it's only a 4 out of 5 because the BC is super close to the ELDM and ELDX. It's just a touch better. Now, for hunting, it's a 5 out of 10 for the same reason the 140 grain Boattail Hollow Point is a 5 out of 10. It's an open tip bullet. It could expand, it could not. It's 50-50. So for that, it's a 5.5 out of 10. It's a little bit better, but not substantially better. Price is a 3 out of 5. It's a little more expensive of a bullet. It's going to be more expensive than most of your Hornady, but it's a touch cheaper than the Nosler. So take it for what it is. And then the availability of that is a 7 out of 10. Most gun stores will carry it that I have seen, but you might have to look around a little bit to find exactly what you're looking for. So for that, our total score is 31 points for the long range hybrid target. So that leaves us with our top three: the Boattail Hollow Point, the ELDX, and the Nosler ballistic tip. If you would like to see other bullets get compared or more content on any of these bullets, leave us a comment down below and remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. This is not a fully comprehensive comparison between all bullets. This is just what we had for our testing currently. If you would like to see any other bullets or anything get compared with the current inventory we have, just leave us a comment down below and we'll see what we can find.